Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Hi, hi.
Good evening.
Hi, Vasana. How are you? How's it going?
I'm fine. Thank you, sir.
Good evening,
Good,
sir.
good.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Guys,
sir.
can you all switch on your cameras? I think that would be great. Mahela, how's it going? Lakshanti, good evening. How are you? Hi, Hiruni. Hi, good evening. Good evening. Ruani, how's it going? Good evening. How are you? You're on mute. Pabasara, hi, good evening. Hi, Fazli. Good evening. How are you? Guys, you all can unmute yourselves and reply, right? You all don't have to stay muted, especially not at the beginning, at any rate. Indika, how are you? Good evening. Vasula, Ranga, how are you? Fazli says pretty good. All right. Hasna, hi, good evening. Tatsarani, good evening. Good evening. Okay, guys, can you all switch on your cameras? I see a lot of people, and it would be great if you can switch on your cameras. That would be great. So we'll just give the others 2 to 3 minutes to join. We have quite a bit of people who registered for the webinar today. We'll give them a bit of time. Ritika, good evening. Madhu, Lasita, good evening. Hi, hi. All right, guys, can we switch on the cameras? Can we switch on the cameras? I'm not seeing a lot of cameras coming on. Nipun, Pamuda's camera is switched on. That's great. Manasingha, good, good. Aloka, that's very nice. Others, what's happening? Vasana, can you switch on your camera? What's happening? Are you unable to
Sir,
switch it
I'm
on?
not in a position. Yeah, I'm not in a position actually at that time because I'm in the kitchen.
Oh gosh. I hope you are in a position to take some notes at least. You don't want
Yeah,
to.
I'll try.
Okay, okay. Inoka, how are you? Good evening. All right. Guys, so while we are waiting for the others to join, can you quickly drop a message on the chat box saying in which language you would like me to conduct the webinar? Is it only in English? Or would you like me to conduct it in Sinhala? Or is a mix of both going to work? So if it's only English, just drop a message saying English. Yes, only in English. Okay, some people, they're saying they don't know Sinhala. Okay, only in English. Great, great, great. Fantastic. Okay, I'm getting a lot of English only. Great. Nice. All right. Super, super, super. That's great. That's great because at the end of the day, it will help you brush up your English as well to hear me consistently speak in English. And great. Guys, the recording of the session, by the way, you can get it on YouTube. I'll be going live on YouTube. So this is live on YouTube right now. So you can just get the recording on YouTube. All right. Super, super. Everyone is saying English, English. Salma is saying English multiple times. That's great. All right. Super, super, super. Some people don't know English. Who is this? Who has said they don't know Sinhala? Who is that? That's good. Are you joining from a different country? Why don't you know Sinhala? That's good. That's good. Okay. It's a lot of English coming along. Fantastic. All right, guys. So just to give you, yes, Dilani, you can get the full recording from YouTube. You can do that. Yes. All right. Great. So I'm seeing a lot of English only. So if anyone does not understand what I'm saying at any point, you're more than free to ask me any questions. All right. But then I will conduct the session fully in English. All right. Okay. So just to give you an idea about myself, I'm Sheshan Dias. Contrary to what it says in my Zoom name, it says the Success Academy. But my name is Shashan Dias, and I'm the founder of the Success Academy. We have been doing IELTS training for the past 2 years. We have trained more than 250, 300 students over the past 2 years, and they have successfully got the band scores that they have wanted. All right. So we have quite a bit of experience teaching students, and I've worked with students one-on-one. I've worked with them on a group level, and I've helped them get to the band scores that they want. I'm assuming that most of you found us on social media, whether it be TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm guessing that's how you joined the webinar today. So welcome to all of you to the IELTS reading webinar conducted by the Success Academy. I'm very happy to have you all here. And in the webinar today, we will be looking at everything related to the reading exam, regardless of whether you're doing the academic or the general exam. The principles that we discuss today will apply to both those exams. All right. So it does not matter whether you're doing the academic test or whether you're doing the general test. The things that we are going to learn here will apply to both those tests. All right. We are going to discuss the structure of the reading exam. Okay. And then we are going to learn the best methodology that you can follow when you are going to answer questions in the reading test. We will also look at the best way in which you can manage your time, and we will also discuss a paper today. Okay. I will conduct the session fully in English since most of you have requested that I do so. However, if you have any questions, feel free to drop a message on the chat box, and then I will answer your questions in due time. I will give you a time to ask questions where I will allow you to unmute yourself and ask questions. You can utilize that time as well. No problem at all. But while I am teaching, if you have any questions, feel free to drop your comments on the chat box. I will have a look at it when it is time to answer questions. All right. So until such time, I will continue to teach. Okay. So we'll get started with the webinar, right? Okay. So before we go on to the webinar, let me just give you some news. I'll elaborate further on this, but we conduct a 10-day IELTS program. And for those of you who are joining the webinar today, you're getting a 5,000 rupee discount. So usually if you go on an installment basis, our program costs 25,000 rupees. But if you confirm your participation today, you will get this for 20,000 rupees only. And what I mean by unlimited classes is that you can join for as many 10-day programs as you want. So let's say you join for April, you can join for May, June, July, if you want to, for just this initial 20,000 rupees. This offer is valid only for people joining the webinar today. I'll give you a reminder on that later on, but we'll get started now, right? Okay, so we are going to look at IELTS reading. Now, I hope all of you have an overall idea of what is the IELTS exam. Do you want me to give you a very short rundown on that? Or do you have a good idea of what IELTS is and what is the exam structure? And do you have knowledge on the basics of IELTS? Can I see a show of hands? If you know the basics of IELTS, can you raise your virtual hand? That will be easy. Just yes. Okay. Sagarika says yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right, good. If anyone wants me to do a rundown of the introduction, can you drop a message on the chat box saying, just say no on the chat box? Okay, everyone says yes. All right, that's great. That's great. Okay. I see a lot of hands going up. Okay, so then I'm not going to go into an introduction about IELTS. We'll directly go into reading. All right. So when it comes to reading and the structure of reading, it's quite simple. This is the second exam in your sequence, which means your first exam is going to be the listening test, following which you will have the reading test. All right. It is after the reading that you will have to go towards your writing exam. So this will be the second exam that you are going to face. Regardless of whether you're doing the general test or the academic test, the reading section has 3 parts. Okay, you have part 1, you have part 2, and you have part 3. Okay. For general test takers, it's the same. For academic test takers, it's the same. The difference happens in the number of paragraphs that you have in each section. Okay. So if you are a general test taker, you have 2 to 3 paragraphs in a single section. All right. You have 2 to 3 paragraphs in a single section. Usually the chances of you getting 3 paragraphs is quite less, but nonetheless, it has happened in the past. Typically, you would get 2 paragraphs per section. And in section 3, part 3, you would get 1 lengthy paragraph. This is for general test takers. All right. 2 paragraphs per section, 1 lengthy paragraph in section number 3. So altogether, typically, you would get 5 paragraphs to answer questions from. Okay, this is for general test takers. For academic test takers, it's very straightforward. Each section contains 1 lengthy paragraph. Okay, you have about 800 words per paragraph, and it's just 3 paragraphs that you get in the academic test. Okay, so the general test has about 5 paragraphs, whereas the academic test has only 3 paragraphs. Okay, the number of questions are the same. You have 40 questions. So typically you would get about 13 to 14 questions per section. All right, 13 to 14 questions per section. That is how it's divided into 3 sections. Okay. Your total time duration also does not change. You have 1 hour to answer the entire paper. So 60 minutes to answer 40 questions, which leaves you with about 1.5 minutes per question. All right, 1.5 minutes per question. Now, the biggest challenge that a lot of people face, and I think you probably face this challenge as well, is that you have trouble managing this time. How do I manage to answer 40 questions in 1.5 minutes each? I have to read close to 2,500 words in the paragraphs, and then I have to read the questions, then I have to understand the questions, and I have to write the answers. All this has to be done in 1.5 minutes per question. So managing time is one of the biggest problems that a lot of people face. All right. The second problem that people face that is related to time management is comprehension. Most of you have a problem. Even if you are able to understand the techniques and strategies, maybe you understand the relevant strategies to find the answers. But even if you can locate, okay, this is the place where the answer is, you still can't comprehend the information. That is a problem. All right. So time management and comprehension. These are 2 of the biggest problems that most people who attend our webinars, who attend our classes have told us. Do you face this problem as well? Can I see a show of hands? Time management and comprehension. Can you raise your hand if that is the case? Okay, I see hands going up. I was worried no one would raise their hand because you could have just left the webinar if that was the case. All right. Okay, good. So a lot of you are facing that same problem. That's great, right? Because I say that's great because that is the problem that we hope to address in the seminar or the webinar, right? Okay. Before we go there, a few things that I want you to keep in mind, a few things that I want you to have in your head before we move forward. In the reading test, you have to pay attention to 4 different things, all right? One is your grammar, okay? If you write a grammatically incorrect answer, the chances are that answer is incorrect, okay? So if you're looking at a sentence completion type question or a short answer question, and you realize the answer that you're putting is grammatically incorrect, grammatically it does not match the sequence of the question, that means most probably your answer is incorrect. Because in this IELTS exam, they are not going to give you a question which has a grammatically incorrect answer. Okay. So if your grammar is at an average or higher level, you should be able to understand by reading the question and by giving the answer that if your answer is grammatically incorrect, that is the incorrect answer. There is no doubt about that. So always you have to look for the grammatically correct answer. Okay. That is one of the ways of solidifying or confirming that you have written the correct answer. Okay. By using correct grammar. The second thing are your spellings. Okay. If your spellings are incorrect, your whole answer will be marked incorrect. There will be no half marks given. There will be no sympathy marks given. If your answer is, or if the spellings of your answer are incorrect, your entire answer will be marked wrong. Okay, there is no doubt about that. All right. Then your capitalization. So this goes hand in hand with your spellings. All right. If your capitalization is incorrect, again, your answer is going to be wrong. So for example, let me put onto the chat box an example. If you're writing a name of someone, right? You're writing the name Sheshan and you write it in this way, right? You can check the chat box. I have put a simple S to start my name. SHESHAN, but I've started with a simple S. This would be marked an incorrect answer. Even if this was the correct answer, it will be marked incorrect because my capitalization is wrong. Okay. So giving priority to your spellings and capitalization is so important. All right. The other thing to keep in mind, another question that students have is, can we answer the whole paper using only capital letters, using only block letters? The answer is yes. If you are unsure of how to use capital letters properly, you can answer the entire paper in capital letters. Keep in mind, don't answer the paper with some places being capital letters and some places being simple letters. All right. If you're going to answer in only capital letters, if you're going to answer in block letters only, then make sure your entire paper is just answered in block letters. All right. Don't write some answers in block letters and some answers with simple letters. That would be again a problem. So all answers block letters only. Okay. Otherwise, you can just stick to the normal way of writing, but do your capitalization properly. All right. Then you have the word count. Okay, you have the word count. Now, when it comes to the word count, there are 6 different types of word counts that you can get. You would get one word only. All right, one word only. 2 words only. Right, 2 words only. Then you would have 3 words only. Right, 1 word only, 2 words only, 3 words only. This is very straightforward. Right, this is very straightforward. If they say 2 words only, you can only write 2 words. You can't write 3 words if they say 2 words only. That's very obvious. Pay attention to that, because if you write more than 2 words, you're going to get marks deducted. Some students have a problem when they say 3 words only. They wonder, do I always have to write 3 words? No, you don't. Right? If they say 3 words only, you can write 1 word, or you can write 2 words, or you can write 3 words, but you can't write 4 words. Make sense? So you can write less than the given word limit. You definitely cannot write more than the given word limit. The other word count instruction would be this: one word and or a number. All right, 1 word and or a number. 2 words and or a number. 3 words and or a number. All right, with regards to this, now if they say 1 word and or a number, Okay, it says one word and a number. So in that case, this answer would be correct. 4 dogs. All right. If they say one word and a number, now 4 is a number, dogs is a word. Therefore, you have one word and a number. All right. If you say 4 dogs, that would be correct. 4 has to be written as a number and not a word. So you can't write 4 in letters. That would be incorrect. Right. So if you write 4 dogs with 4 also being written in letters, that would not be the correct way to write it, right? It would be one numeric, so that's 4, and the other would be the word 4 dogs. Make sense? 2 words and 3 words are the same thing. If they say 3 words and a number, you can write 4 big black dogs. So 4 would be the numerical one, and then you have 3 words. 3 words and a number. Clear? I hope that makes sense. All right. I hope that makes sense. And finally, your time. So like I said, you have 60 minutes, 40 questions. With regards to your time, I'll give you a general overview and I'll get into detail later on. I told you that in the general and the academic test, you have 60 minutes and you have 3 parts. All right. 3 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3. Ielts has recommended that you take 20 minutes each for each part. So for part 1, 20 minutes, for part 2, 20 minutes, for part 3, 20 minutes. That's your 60 minutes. This is not a great strategy to follow because the paragraphs get progressively difficult. What does that mean? That means that each paragraph is more difficult than the other. Therefore, if you can do the first part in 20 minutes, you're definitely going to take more time to do part 2. Because it's harder. Part 3 is going to be harder than that. So you're going to be in a real fix by the time you get to the third part. All right. Therefore, a better management of time would be part 1, 15 minutes. Right. Part 1, 15 minutes. Part 2, 20 minutes. And part 3, 25 minutes. That is a better management of your time. Right? Part 1, 15 minutes, part 2, 20 minutes, and part 3, 25 minutes. Clear? So I hope that made sense. Now we'll move on. Okay. We're going to discuss a few ways on how to practice. All right. We're going to discuss a few ways on how to practice. Now, practicing for the reading test, you have to look at a few things. You have to improve your ability to read fast, right? Because like I told you, you have to read up to 2,500 words. That's just in the paragraph. Then you have to read the questions. Then you have to look for answers to those questions in the paragraph, right? And then you have to write the answers. To do all that in just 60 minutes can be quite challenging. So you have to improve your ability to read fast. All right. Not just read fast. Now, there is no point in being able to read fast only. If you do not understand what you are reading, there is no point. So you have to improve your comprehension. Comprehension is your ability to understand what you are reading. That is so important. Comprehension is your ability to understand what you are reading. Okay, because if you don't understand what you're reading, there is absolutely no point in trying to read fast. All right, you might as well take a bit of time and read what you have to read and understand it, as opposed to just being able to read fast. Okay, now one of the things that you can do to improve your comprehension, and this is a time-tested method, one of the things is reading and summarizing what you read. All right, that is one of the best ways in which you can improve your comprehension skills. All right, it's one of the best ways that you can improve your comprehension skills. Now, if you're doing the academic test or the general test, it doesn't matter what you read. Ideally, you would want to read something that is a bit difficult to understand so that you would be improving yourself constantly. So take, for example, a BBC or a CNN article. All right, you take a BBC or a CNN article. You read it within 10 to 15 minutes. All right, you take an article, you read it, and without looking at that article, you try to summarize what you wrote in your own words. All right, what you're doing now, most people, first of all, would find it difficult to read a BBC article because the language has a lot of quality words. All right, you read through this, you understand it, and then you write it in your own words. If you do this over a significant amount of time, your ability to read faster and understand that information is going to improve simultaneously. All right. So reading and summarizing is one of the best ways in which you can improve your comprehension and speed reading. Another thing that you can do to improve your speed reading, and again, this is something that we have tried and it has worked. If you're doing the physical test, that means the paper-based test, one of the ways in which you can improve your focus in reading is keeping your finger on the paper that you are reading and running your finger through as you read. Now, you might be thinking, hey, this is what kids do, right? This is what kids do. But there is a purpose as to why kids do it. It improves your focus. Now, when you look at a 2,500 or you look at an 800-word article, right? You look at that reading test, your mind gets blown. You don't know where to read. You don't know what to look for. You're just in a space where you can't figure out what to do, right? By keeping your finger and following through with that, you're focusing on reading a word at a time. All right. That dramatically improves your focus to read faster. So you're not worried about this big picture. You're worried about reading one word at a time. As they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. All right. Now, if you're doing the computer-based test, you can just use your cursor. All right. You can just use the cursor to move forward and keep reading. All right. But you can, of course, practice by reading a book, reading an article, by keeping your finger, and then later moving on to the computer and using the cursor. All right, using the cursor. Then another thing, so those are two methods that you can follow. One is reading and summarizing. The other is using a cursor or using your finger, right, to follow what you're reading so that it improves your focus and you're able to read faster. The other method is a method called skimming. And this is one of the techniques that we use when we come to the actual test. All right. Skimming is the process of glancing through a certain paragraph or a certain amount of words to read and understanding the gist, the summary of that information. All right. In order to do this, again, we have to have improved our comprehension overall. So by reading and summarizing and by following that method of focus, we have already improved our reading skills to a certain level. Skimming is the next step, or phase 2, right? Skimming is phase 2, where we are able to glance at a paragraph, look at certain words, and instead of reading everything word for word, we get a basic understanding of what a paragraph is about. In order to do this, we have to be able to identify key words. All right. We have to be able to identify key words. There are two types of keywords, right? There are two types of keywords. Okay. Let me put that into the chat box. Two types of keywords. One of them is called fixed keywords. All right. Fixed keywords. Okay. What are fixed keywords? Now, when you take words, right, let's take the word happy. The word happy has synonyms, similar words, which means that word can change. Happy, excited, ecstatic, overjoyed, joyful, over the moon. All of these are words used to describe the word happy. All right. Therefore, it's not fixed, right? This word can change again and again and again in so many different ways. So in the question, if you see the word happy, and if you're looking for that same word in the paragraph, you're never going to find it because it's not fixed. So what is a fixed keyword? A fixed keyword is a word that does not change. A fixed keyword is a word that does not change. Look at my name, for example, Sheshan. If the name Sheshan was found in the question, you're going to find that exact same name in the paragraph. It's one of the most easiest words to identify. Any proper noun is a fixed keyword. All right. Names of people, names of places, names of things, names of animals. All of these are fixed keywords, right? For example, the Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean would be a fixed keyword because there are no synonyms for the Indian Ocean, right? If you have a country, Australia, there is no synonym for Australia, right? It's going to be Australia. So when you're skimming, you should be able to identify the fixed keywords and get a gist of what this paragraph is about. The second type of keyword would be flexible keywords, right? Flexible keywords. Now, flexible keywords are words that can change. These are words that have synonyms, all right? These are words that have synonyms. So like I said, the word happy, the word sad, the word ugly, the word beautiful, all of these words have synonyms. These words can change, right? So those are more difficult to find, but when we are skimming, right, we can still glance at them to get an idea about what we are reading. So skimming is basically the ability to not read something word for word, just glance through it and get an idea about what you're reading. Not a very comprehensive idea, but a very over the top, on the surface idea, right? That is skimming. So in order to skim well, you need to have the ability to identify fixed keywords fast, all right? Fixed keywords are what you look for when you are skimming. Flexible keywords are not that important because, again, they're flexible. They will change. You won't find the same words in the question. What you're doing with flexible keywords is you're just glancing at them to get a basic idea of what you are reading. Or what you give attention to are your fixed keywords. All right. So summarize, read and summarize, right? Then you have to improve your ability of comprehension. Then you have to improve your ability to skim, right? So by focusing, you develop your ability to comprehend as well, right? So those are three of the best methods to improve your overall reading skills. Now, do you have to read every day? Ideally, yes. And what do you read every day? You don't have to read books. You don't have to read papers or magazines necessarily, right? BBC, CNN, news websites are some good sources to read because, again, it gives you a lot of vocabulary that you're not familiar with. Therefore, it's a good source to read. Outside of that, I would just recommend that you take 50 odd past papers or mock papers and you just read the IELTS reading parts themselves, right? The reading practices themselves. Because it's very difficult to find that level of reading maybe in a book, right? Now, I'll just give you an example. I'm reading a book these days, and as much as this book does have quite a bit of difficult words, it's nothing compared to what you would get at the IELTS exam, right? It's very different. So I would recommend that outside of news websites, you directly go and start reading IELTS practice papers, right? Summarize those same papers, right? Read and summarize those same papers. Practice your focused reading methods with those same IELTS papers, right? And practice skimming and identifying fixed keywords with those same papers, okay? Another great way to practice is you start by slow practices, right? What do I mean by that? Now, typically, since a big problem that most of you face is time management, that tells me that you're taking more than 1 hour to finish a regular paper. All right. Which means you're taking about 1.5 hours. Some of you might even go up to 2 hours. That is perfectly fine, especially at the beginning. If you take 2 hours to read the whole thing, read the questions, find the answers, no problem. First thing you have to develop is your ability to comprehend and see if you can find the answers. Now, if you're at a level where you can't understand English at all, then you have to go to a spoken English class. You have to go to an English grammar class and improve your ability to speak and understand English. Because let's be honest, if your ability to comprehend, if your ability to understand English is at a very low level, doing this test is going to be tough, right? This is not a walk in the park, right? Just because you understand the techniques of doing this faster does not mean that you're going to improve your English skills, right? So the first thing you do is do a slow practice. Take 1.5, 2 hours. It doesn't matter how long, but really understand what you are doing and see if you can get 30 plus answers correct by doing these slow practices. Ideally, what you should be aiming for would be at least 13 out of 13 in part 1, right? That takes a lot of pressure out of part 2 and part 3, right? Then you have to get at least 10 to 11 questions correct in part 2, and then you can get about 9 to 10 or 8 to 10 questions correct in part 3. That should be your overall target. Part 1, if you're not getting 13 out of 13, or at the very least 12 out of 13 for 6 to 7 papers at a stretch, you need to keep practicing part 1 again and again and again and again until you start getting to that level. Because part 1 is the easiest section of that paper. And if you're getting 8, 7 in part 1, that means you're not at a great level. So you need to improve your ability to get to 11 or 12, 12 or 13 answers correct in part 1. How do you achieve this? Again, you go with slow practices. Doesn't matter if you take 25, 30 minutes to complete part 1. Just do it. Read it properly, understand it, answer the questions. Focus on getting the answers right. Forget about time and time management, right? I'll tell you how to manage the time, right? But that's not important at the initial phases. What you want to do is understand what you are reading and get the answers correct. That's what you want to do. Shortening that gap, shortening the time is not a big deal. You just have to understand a few techniques and that will get you to the relevant time, right? So slow practices is the way to start. And also focused practices is the way to go as well. So like I said, if you're struggling with part 1, take about 10 papers and do only part 1, section 1, right? When you're getting 12 or 13 questions correct, then do part 1 and part 2, right? So out of 26 questions, if you're getting about 24, 23, that means you're at a good level, right? Then you can progress to part 3. And then out of 40 questions, if you're getting 35, 34, 35 and above, perfect, right? You're at a good level to face the exam. If you're getting below 30, regardless of whether you're doing academic or general, that means you're at a bit of a dangerous situation, because what you get during a practice is not what you are going to get in the actual test, right? So if you're getting 28, 29 in, if you're getting 28, 29 in a practice test, then you might get about 25, 24, 25 at the actual test. That is usually how it goes. So it is very important that you do these slow and focused practices and try to get your overall mark to about 34, 35 during practices, right? So that is definitely the way to go. Then maybe towards the last 3 to 4 weeks of practicing, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, you can do timed practices, right? 1 hour, done and dusted. All right. That's how you're going to practice. So if you're maybe 2 or 3 months out, take as much time as you want. When you're closing in on 4 to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, that's when you start your timed practices. Clear? All right. Then we are going to focus on skimming, scanning, and focused reading. So for this, I will utilize the paper. All right. So I will utilize a paper and we'll go directly into a paper discussion. Here we'll look at different types of questions, and we will also look at the different techniques that will help you manage your time in a better way, and that will also help you understand what you're reading in a better way, right? Okay, so before we get there, let me give you the opportunity to ask questions. All right, let me give you the opportunity to ask questions. Okay, so you can unmute yourself and ask questions, or you could just drop a question onto the chat box. Anyone, you can ask questions. You can unmute yourself, right? You can unmute yourself and ask questions. So someone has asked, how can we have reading past papers? I will drop a link to that on the group. Okay, you can get access to all the Cambridge mock practice papers from book 1 to book 18. Book 19 will be updated onto that link soon, but book 19 is also out, right? But you will get access to all of that. I'll drop that link onto the group. All right. Someone says, I'm struggling with true, false, and not given type questions. That's one of the first questions we are going to discuss. All right. So right after this Q&A, we are going to discuss a true, false, and not given type question.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, when I'm doing the filling the blanks question, do I need to change the form of the verb?
You don't have to change anything, right? That's what I said. Grammar is important. You don't have to change anything when you're doing any answer. Clear? So when you're doing a sentence completion type question, the exact word that you find in the paragraph is going to be the answer. Clear? You do not have to change anything. So if the form of verb you are using does not match the grammar in that sentence, it's the wrong answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but just to make grammatically correct, do we need to change the form?
No, that's what I said. The answer that is in the paragraph should be grammatically correct. If it is not grammatically correct, it's the wrong answer. Clear?
Yeah, I got. Yeah.
Clear.
Thank you.
So that's one indicator that you can use to check, do I have the right answer? So if your answer is grammatically incorrect, that means it's the wrong answer. Clear?
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay, great. Someone has asked, when is the next webinar? Before getting to the next webinar, focus on this webinar. Right? Next webinar will be sometime next month, towards the end of next month, right? Aren't there any academic reading test papers apart from Cambridge papers? Guys, don't do anything apart from Cambridge papers, because Cambridge is the body that has created IELTS, and they have created more test papers than you can do before your test. They have books 1 to 18. Each book has 4 papers. All right, my math isn't great, but that's a lot of papers. Right? So you're probably not going to finish all of that before your test. Don't do anything apart from the Cambridge papers. I would not recommend it at all, right? Because you might find other papers on different websites, things that other teachers have created. Don't do any of those, because they do not capture the essence of the exam itself. Either it will be too difficult or it might be too easy. So Cambridge mock practice papers have been created to mimic the exact paper you're going to get at the test. So don't do anything apart from Cambridge papers. And I will send you the link to the website to do the papers. All right. So I'll drop that on the group as soon as this webinar is done. Okay. Someone has asked, I'm going to sit for the computer-based test. Will that hamper the speed of my performance? I've got an issue with focusing too. That's a tough question, right? Because it's like this. For me, I personally find reading on paper to be a lot easier than reading on a computer screen, because I too have the problem of focusing when it's on a computer screen. I just can't, right? But of course, I've done both. And to me, again, I find the paper-based test to be easy, right? The paper-based test to be easy simply because I can highlight it. I can do what I want, and it's easy for me to read. I really prefer following the wordings with my finger as opposed to the cursor. But that being said, it's a personal preference. So for me, I prefer to do the paper-based test, right? But for you, if you feel that it's hard to focus while you're doing the computer-based test, then I would recommend do the paper-based test, because it's easy to highlight, it's easy to focus, all of that. But if you can practice and get your speed to a certain level, that's not going to be an issue. Clear? So that I can't really tell you that this is the best way to go. I can only tell you what is the best way for me, right? Now, my brother who did the IELTS, so he's also going to Australia. He did the IELTS test just a few days ago, and he really preferred the computer-based test. He hates to read, right? So he just didn't want to do the paper-based test. So he just said, I'm going to do the computer-based test, and he did quite a good job. So even during practices, he was getting 38, 39 for the reading test, right? On the computer-based test, right? So he had no problem focusing. So it's really a personal preference. For me, I prefer the paper-based test because I too find it difficult to focus when it's on the computer, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
so in some papers that it says we can use any letter more than once, but in some papers it is not mentioned. So
Yeah.
in such situations, can we use one letter more than once?
That is also a tricky question, because it's like this. Usually, if they say a letter can be used more than once, it technically is, right? So you would have at least 2 times where the same letter is repeated. 98% of the time, or 99% of the time, if they have not mentioned that, if they have not said that any letter can be repeated more than once, it will not be repeated, right? It will not be repeated 99% of the time. But very recently, I did a few papers, and there was one paper that I came across. It was a general reading paper. Can't remember exactly what paper it was, but it was a general reading paper where they had not mentioned that the same word could be used again and again, but it had been used, right? It had been used. But now, to make it easier for you, I'll give you a very straight answer. 99% of the time, that will not happen. So don't look for that to happen if it is not given, right? If it's absolutely impossible to find an answer that suits the question, then maybe read it again and figure out, okay, maybe in these paragraphs, which I have already mentioned, there might be an answer. But that's a very, very rare occurrence. Makes sense? So unless they have mentioned, don't look for it. Got it?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Fazli has asked, Sir, Cambridge books are a little hard. Yes, Fazli. The Cambridge mock paper, like I said, is made exactly to mimic the actual paper. So that is the paper you're going to get. That's what I said. Don't practice any other type of paper. Just do the Cambridge tests, right? Someone has said, so my reading test is on the 6th of April. I'm practicing the general paper. It's getting 15 to 19. Oof. Look, if you're getting 15 to 19, that's not a great situation. So you can follow the techniques that I'm going to outline in the next part of my webinar, right? Because if you're doing it on the 6th, that's just next week, right? So while you're focusing on improving your comprehension, right, I would suggest that you focus more on the techniques I'm going to talk about in the webinar next, all right? Hashini has said, how can I join the reading only classes? No, you can't join reading only classes. If that's the case, you would have to join my individual classes, all right? But so that also you can just contact the same number and you can get the details. But if you're looking to join the group classes, it's just a 10-day program, 5 weeks, we are done and dusted. You can join that for just 20,000 rupees. And if you're doing the exam in June, July, or August, it doesn't matter. You can join now in April and just continue till August for the same price. We will not charge you an extra cent. All right. Outside of the 10 physical sessions or the online sessions, face-to-face sessions, you will get our video course and our information bank for free. All right. For 20,000 rupees. So outside of this, we are not charging you anything, but you need to confirm your participation today. All right. You don't have to pay today. You can pay later, but you can confirm your participation today. Right. And someone has said, can you do a listening seminar? We are doing a listening seminar, but probably next month or the month after, not anytime soon. Is physical classes available? No, physical classes are not available at the moment. We only do online sessions. All right. Question time is done for now. We will go into the rest of the session, the next part of the session, right? Just to outline something to you here before we go to the paper, these are the marks that you have to get in order to get to your relevant band score. All right. So if you're doing the academic test, right, if you're doing academic reading, 27 to 29 would be the marking range that you would have to get into to get a 6.5 band score. All right. You can take a screenshot of this if you want. To get to 6.5, which is what most academic students require, right? If you're going to Australia, Canada, US, UK, and you're looking to get into a university, this is the band score that most people require. Might be higher, but this is what they require. So you need to get only 27 to 29. But like I said, in your practice, if you're getting 27 to 29, that's not good, right? You need to be at least in this range if you're expecting this. Clear? If you are expecting 6.5, in your practices, you need to be in the 7.5 range. Okay. So to get to a band 8, you need to get 35 marks, which is very possible, right? So if you practice the way that I tell you to, right? Even without the skimming, scanning, and focus reading methods that we're going to talk about, if you just practice the way I told you to, getting to this band score is not going to be hard, right? 37 to 38, you need to apply strategy. 39 to 40, you really need strategy, right? This is, you have to be, you have to have practiced multiple times to get to a band 9. Plus, you need to have a bit of luck on your side as well, right? But 8.5, more than achievable. More than achievable just with your hard work. You don't need luck, right? You just need hard work to get to this, more than possible. If you're doing the general test, it's a bit tricky, right? Because to get to the same level, to get to the same 6.5, you need to get 32 to 33 marks, right? So you can't get 27, 26 and expect to get to a 6.5 if you're doing the general test. If you're doing the general test, you need to get 32, 33 just to get to a 6.5. Why? Because general test is obviously easier than the academic test, right? Now, if you're doing the general test, don't not look at the academic test papers, right? You have to, it's better that you practice some academic reading as well, even if you're doing the general paper, because if you can get 34, 35 for an academic test paper, general test paper is just a walk in the park. So easy, right? This is definitely the harder one, right? Okay, with that being said, let's go to a paper. So this is obviously from a Cambridge mock practice paper, right? This is what we're going to be discussing. We're going to be talking about the techniques that you have to follow to improve your reading and find the correct answers. So I can't remember who asked this, but we're starting with a true, false, and not given type question. Something that you said was a bit tough for you, right? Okay. Now I'm going to do this first, and I'm going to do the 7 questions and show you how it is done. Then the next question, I'll give you the opportunity to do it first, and then we will discuss the answers, right? Okay. When we are doing the reading test, we have to follow 3 techniques, right? Skimming, scanning, and focused reading. All 3 of we have to be really good at it, right? Skimming, scanning, and focused reading. If you're good at skimming and scanning, but you're not good at focused reading, that can be a problem, right? So that is why comprehension is also very important, right? That's why comprehension is also very important, because even if you can scan and find the place where the answer is, if you can't read and identify what the correct answer is, then you're going to lose marks. You're going to get the wrong answer. That is why for a lot of people, a true false not given question might be a bit difficult. All right. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Now, what is skimming? So we already discussed this. Skimming is the process of going through a paragraph and glancing at it to go through the fixed keywords and get a basic idea of what the paragraph is about. Glance and comprehend. That should be your target with skimming. Here, we are just going to outline the fixed keywords, right? We are just going to outline the fixed keywords. That's all we are going to do, right? Now, what are fixed keywords? Right now, Ruksha has said first one is true, I think. We'll check, right? Before we get there, what are fixed keywords? Right. Now, I told you earlier that fixed keywords are words that don't change. Okay, what are those words? I told you any proper noun is a fixed keyword. But is it only proper nouns? No. Okay, it's basically any name of a person, country, right, place, or any other proper noun, right? So days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, months of the year, January, February, March, April, all of these are fixed keywords. Then numbers. Numbers are fixed keywords. So if you see a number here, let's say 6,000, then definitely 6,000 will also be on this side, right? If you have a number that says 50,000, or if you have a date, let's say 2003, that date should be here, right? So numbers, dates, right? Any date, days of the week, days of the month, dates as in numbers, all of those should be here, right? And then you have scientific terms, right? For example, chronobiology, right? Chronobiology is a scientific term. It's not going to change, right? It's going to be exactly as it is, right? So proper nouns, names, numbers, dates, scientific terms, all of these are fixed keywords, right? While you're skimming this paragraph, that is all you look for, fixed keywords, right? Names, dates, scientific terms, and numbers. So if you go through here, right, you have flora and fauna, right? Scientific terms, okay? And then you go on to read this. Okay, so you have marine life, okay. Crepuscular, right? A scientific term. Nocturnal animals, scientific term, right? Chronobiologists is an extension of chronobiology. Circadian rhythm, right? Again, scientific term. All right, so there are no numbers. So again, you get here melatonin, circadian rhythm. Therapeutic developments might not be a fixed one, but again, chronobiological demands, right? You just highlight the fixed keywords that you can find, okay? Just go through the entire paragraph, right? Just go through the entire paragraph and you highlight the fixed keywords that you can find, right? So here you would get the name Pam Stone, right? Just go through the whole thing and you highlight the fixed keywords. 3 p.m., right? 45 milligrams, 90 milligrams, 10 o'clock, right? All of these are fixed keywords. Now you might have a question, how long do I take for this? It'll take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go through this entire thing and mark down your fixed keywords. That's too long. So how long can you take? 2 minutes, You can't take a minute. You can't take a second more than 2 minutes. You have to finish this off in 2 minutes, right? Which means you need to go. So you're not reading, you're not focused reading, right? You're just glancing through. That's it. That is all you are doing, right? You're glancing through and you're highlighting your fixed keywords. That's it. Nothing else. All right. In 2 minutes, let's say you only get to this section. You are unable to highlight the fixed keywords in everything. That's okay. Don't worry. Just go to the questions after 2 minutes are done. Don't wait. Don't try to highlight the entire paragraph. It's not worth it. It's not worth the time you spend. All right. Just take 2 minutes, highlight as many fixed keywords as you can, and then move to the questions. Right? That's it. I hope that is very clear. 2 minutes, done and dusted. Skimming is over once you are done with that. Okay, not a second move. Then we go into the actual process of finding the answers, which is scanning. Right? Scanning. Scanning is where we identify the fixed and flexible keywords in the question, and we look for those, we scan for those in the paragraph. This will not give us the exact answer, but it will show us exactly where the answer is, right? It will show us exactly where the answer is, which section of the paragraph the answer is going to be. All right. Okay, I'll give you an example. Chronobiology, like I said, is a fixed keyword, is a study. Now, study is not a fixed keyword. Either the same word could come or a different word could come. So it could be, is the research, is the field, right? Any of these words could be given instead of study. Living things is not a fixed keyword, all right? It could be animals, like living things could be animals, humans, right? Any of those words could be given. Have evolved. Evolved is also not a fixed keyword, right? Transformed, right? You could use different words for that. Over time, right? Time might not have another word, right? A similar word, but time could be mentioned in terms of years, could be mentioned over a period of weeks. So again, it's not a fixed keyword. So our only fixed keyword is chronobiology. So we're looking for chronobiology plus a study of how living things have evolved over time. These are the words that we are looking for. So remember, for these, we are not looking for these exact words, although they might be there. We are looking for synonyms, and then we are looking for this exact word. So if you have highlighted your keywords properly, you should know by now that the word chronobiology is here, right? If you look at the second paragraph, again, it's not there. Therefore, we can make an assumption that within this range, you should find the first answer, right? Ideally within this, but it could go on to the second paragraph as well. But we have to now locate the flexible keywords, right? Flexible keywords. Okay. If we just quickly glance through, we find the word study, right? Study. Evolved over time. Okay. Time is here, right? So we can now get an idea that the answer should be somewhere in this section, right? And we have the words flora and fauna, which refers to living things. Answer is definitely there, right? Answer is not going to be in this section. Answer is definitely in this section. Now what has happened? We have found the place where the answer is going to be. Now we know in this paragraph, in this location, the answer is there. But in order to find the correct answer for this, we have to now focused read. We have to read this whole thing properly and tally it with this to get the correct answer, right? So it says, chronobiology might sound a little futuristic, like something from a science fiction novel. That's irrelevant. But it's actually a field of study. Now you're getting the definition. It's a field of study that concerns one of the oldest processes life on this planet has ever known. Short-term rhythms of time and their effect on flora and fauna. Short-term rhythms of time. What is evolution? Evolution is long-term rhythms of time. How a living species evolves over a period of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years. This is focusing, chronobiology is focusing on short-term rhythms of time and their effect on living things, flora and fauna. So the answer for this question is not true, it is false. Clear? The answer for this question is false, right? Why? Because this statement and this statement over here does not tally, right? This is talking about how chronobiology is the short-term rhythms of time and their effect on living things. This talks about how it is the study of living things and how they have evolved over time. That would be incorrect, right? So false. Okay. Question number 2. The rise and fall of sea levels affects how sea creatures behave. Now we have a problem. There are no fixed keywords, zero fixed keywords, right? Rise and fall could have synonyms. Sea levels again could have synonyms, right? Affects how sea creatures could have synonyms. So this whole thing, we are looking for synonyms now. We are looking for the flexible keywords, right? Sea creatures means marine life, right? Sea creatures means marine life. Rise and fall means tidal patterns, we could say. So rise and fall of sea levels could be tidal patterns, right? Tidal patterns. Affected could mean influenced. Okay. The rise and fall of sea levels affects how sea creatures behave. Marine life, for example, is influenced by tidal patterns. This statement and this statement agree with each other. Therefore, this is true. Very easy. We are just looking for the keywords. Rise and fall of sea levels affects how sea creatures behave. Marine life is influenced by tidal patterns, right? This and this are similar. Therefore, this answer should be true. Clear? Most animals are active during the daytime, right? Most animals are active during the daytime. Again, no fixed keywords, right? We have to look for the flexible ones, right? Most animals, okay? Animals is here, right? Again, numerous creatures. Most animals is also here. So we are looking at both of these instances, right? Are active during the daytime, right? Numerous creatures are largely diurnal. That is, they like to come out during the hours of sunlight, right? Nocturnal animals prefer to forage by night, right? So here it says, okay, if you read this clearly, it says numerous creatures, most animals are active during the daytime, are largely diurnal. That is, they like to come out during the hours of sunlight, right? That means they are active during the daytime, right? So that would be again true. Most animals are active during the daytime. Numerous creatures, humans included, are largely diurnal. That is, they like to come out during the hours of sunlight. That would be true, right? Circadian rhythms identify how we do different things on different days, right? Here, circadian rhythm is a scientific term. Therefore, it's a fixed keyword. That would be an easy one to look for. So without looking for any of the other flexible keywords, we can directly just look for this fixed keyword. So if we look over here, we would find, Okay, here we are. Circadian rhythm, right? Circadian rhythm. Identify how we do different things on different days. Different things on different days, right? Okay, if you just look at the definition here, right? So here they have given the definition of a circadian rhythm, right? This is the complete cycle our bodies are naturally geared to undergo within the passage of a 24-hour day. This says that circadian rhythm is the natural transition that our bodies undergo within a given period of time, that is during one day, not what we do on different days. It's our cycle in one day, not what we do on different days. Therefore, the answer to this would be false. All right. The answer to this would be false. Okay. So I hope you understand what we are doing. We are looking for the keywords. We are locating where the answer is, and then we are reading it properly to find whether the answers match or not. Right. So like I said, you can use the scanning method to find where the answer is. That is easy. That's not a difficult thing to do. But after you look at, now you know the answer is somewhere here. But if you can't read and understand this, you're still going to be in a bit of a problem. Right? You're still going to be in a bit of a problem. So you have to improve your focused reading methods in order to understand what you are reading and find the correct answers. All right. Okay. The next thing is a night person can still have a healthy circadian rhythm. Okay, so again, we have circadian rhythm here, healthy circadian rhythm, a night person. Okay, so now we look at circadian rhythm here. Now I know it is here, but we don't look at that anymore. Now we come to another important part of the techniques, right? Why am I ignoring this one when it is given in the question over here? The reason is the answers in your reading test is always in order, right? The answers in your reading test are always in order of the questions. That means if you find the answer to question number 1 in the first paragraph, let's say somewhere here, the answer to question number 2 is never going to be above that. That means the answer to question number 2 will never be here. It will always be below that. Clear? Let's say the answer to question number 2 was here in this sentence. Answer to question number 3 will always be below that. So that means from here onwards, it will never be above that. So now for question number 4, we found the answer here. Right? We found the answer here. The answer to question number 5 is never going to be in this section or above this. It's always going to be below this. Clear? This rule applies to all types of questions in the reading test, except for matching type questions and classification type questions. Okay. For matching and classification type questions, answers are not going to be in order. For every other type of question, the answers are going to be in order. I hope that is clear. All right. Okay. So now we are looking at circadian rhythm. So we found circadian rhythm, right? And directly after that, night people is also mentioned, right? Now we want to find out whether night people have a healthy circadian rhythm. So we'll just read this section and see. Night people, for example, often describe how they find it very hard to operate during the morning, but become focused and alert by evening. This is a benign variation within circadian rhythms known as a chronotype, right? This is a benign variation within circadian rhythms known as a chronotype. So it is something that is natural. It is something that is normal. So they don't have an unhealthy circadian rhythm. They have a healthy circadian rhythm because it is a part of how people naturally work. So night people can focus more during the night as opposed to people who can focus during the day. Therefore, this statement and what it says here is similar. Therefore, this answer would be true. Is that clear? This one and this one would be true. All right. Then we go to question number 6. New therapies can permanently change circadian rhythms without causing them. So again, we have circadian rhythms, change circadian rhythms without causing harm, right? And new therapies are what we are looking for. So new therapies change circadian rhythms without causing harm, right? So we can look again. So circadian rhythms are here. Fixed keyword, easy to find, nothing to stress about. Therapeutic developments means therapies. So we definitely know answer is going to be in that section. So if you just read maybe to the end of that sentence up till here. Recent therapeutic developments for humans, such as artificial light machines and melatonin administration, can reset, permanently change circadian rhythms. For example, but our bodies can tell the difference and health suffers when we breach these natural rhythms for extended periods of time. Health suffers. It says we can permanently change our circadian rhythms without causing harm. That is not true. It does cause harm. It does suffer, right? It does suffer when we go through therapeutic developments. Therefore, the answer is false. Is that clear? The answer is false. Finally, we have naturally produced vegetables have more nutritional values. Okay, vegetables can take it as plants maybe, right? And if you go have more nutritional values, nutritional, okay, it says here essential nutrients. So if we can just read this part, here the word vegetables is also here. So we don't have to read the top part. We can just read from here. Vegetables grown in season and ripened on the tree are far higher in essential nutrients than those grown in greenhouses and ripened by laser. These are higher in nutrients. That means they have more nutritional values. Therefore, this answer is true. Right? This answer is true. Remember, when you're writing answers, you can't write T, F, N, G. This would be incorrect, right? You always have to write true, false, and not given. All right. So this skimming, scanning, and focused reading method is the same technique you apply for any type of question, whether it is matching headings, matching information, sentence completion, true, false, and not given, classification, short answers, any question type. Skimming, scanning, and focused reading is the way to answer questions. All right. Like I told you, answers are always going to be in order. And even if you look here, now this is an MCQ type question. This is a true, false, not given type question. The answers for question number 8 is never, ever, ever going to be above this. මෙතනින් උඩ එක උත්තරයක්වත් නැහැ question 8 ඉඳලා පල්ලෙහාට. Right? For question number 8 and below, you're never going to find an answer above this. It's always going to be below this. So you know from here to here is where you're going to find answers for question number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Is that clear? Okay. All right. So before I move on to discussing these questions, do you have any other questions to ask me? So I will allow you to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and ask any question now. So Fazli says, sir, do we want to write the answer as A, B, C or complete answer? If you're referring to this, then you only have to write A, B, C. If you write the complete answer, your answer is wrong. Even if it is the correct answer, it's wrong because they have clearly said, write A, B, C or D. All right. So you would only have to write that. Any other questions? No questions. This has got to be the first webinar I've done that has very little questions. No, sir, let's proceed. Wow, that's great. So, usually if you don't have questions, it means that you have either understood everything, which is great. And I hope you did. So if you understand, you can just drop a message saying you understood, which is fantastic. Or it means you have understood nothing, which is bad. Right? So I seriously hope that you have understood everything, right? So that is great. Everything is so clear. That's fantastic, right? Good, good, good. So I love the fact that you have understood what I'm talking about. So that makes it very fulfilling for me. And I'm glad that you're getting some value out of this discussion. All right, so that's great. So then if everything is clear, we'll proceed. All right. Okay. Now we will move on to question number 8. Now, like I told you, the answer is not going to be from here. So I'm not even going to look at or read this part of the question. Right? Now, I want you to keep something else in mind. Now, if this question was not an MCQ type question, if this was a classification, if this was a matching heading, if this was a matching information type question, I would not be making this assumption that the answers are not here. Because like I told you, if it is matching or classification, that rule does not apply. Okay, that rule does not apply. But for any other question, MCQs, sentence completion, true, false, not given, yes, no, not given, short answers, any of those other questions, that principle applies. Okay, so we are looking for question number 8. What did researchers identify as the ideal time to wake up in the morning? Now here, we definitely are looking for a time. So immediately when we look at this paragraph, it should occur to us, right, there is no time mentioned here. Therefore, immediately skip it. Don't bother even looking at it. Come directly to here, right? 6:04, 7, 7:22, all of those are here, except for 7:30 maybe, right? We are looking at the ideal time. There is no fixed keyword here except for the answers, right? So immediately these are numbers. We can locate numbers very easily, right? So we know that the answer is definitely here. So we are looking for the ideal time, the perfect time to wake up in the morning, right? Okay. Ideal time, that's the word we are looking for. Optimum moment. Optimum moment means ideal time. The optimum moment has been whittled down to 7:22 a.m. Right? 7:22 a.m. So that would be your answer. C would be your answer. Right? So here we didn't look at the keywords in the question. Immediately we understood that these are numbers. There are no numbers here. Therefore, there is no answer here. Immediately we move on to where the numbers are. Now, what do we understand? Again, there is no answer above this now, right? So although there was nothing here, we skip this paragraph. We don't have to go back there again. Don't ever think, there was no answer there. There might be an answer later on, so I might have to go and read again. No. If you skip the paragraph, forget about it. There is no answer there, right? So we'll skip it. Here we go again. In order to lose weight, we should. Now, again, we have to look for keywords in the answers as well, because it will make it easier for us to find the correct answer. Avoid eating breakfast. So breakfast is definitely a keyword. It has to be here because it has been repeated everywhere. So it has to be there, right? Avoid eating breakfast. Eat a low carbohydrate breakfast. So avoid is a keyword. Low carbohydrate is a keyword. Exercise before breakfast is a keyword. Exercise after is also a keyword. So these are the keywords we're looking for. So in order to lose weight, we should what? Right. Breakfast is immediately here. Never skip breakfast. Ha! But we have to read for context and see. If you're trying to shed some extra pounds, dietitians are adamant. Never skip breakfast. Is that an answer? No. Avoid eating breakfast means don't eat breakfast. Here it says definitely eat breakfast. Never skip breakfast. Okay. So that answer is definitely not an answer. That option is definitely not an answer. Right? Then we look for low carbohydrates. Okay. Here it says carbohydrate rich breakfast. The recommended course of action is to follow an intense workout. Exercise with a carbohydrate rich breakfast. Okay, what does that mean? The recommended course of action is to follow an intense workout with a carbohydrate rich breakfast. Right. Now, some of you might be confused, some of you might be not. If you can understand this clearly, you will not be confused. Which of these two is the answer? Is it exercise before breakfast or exercise after breakfast? Can you put the answer on the chat box? Is it C or D? Very good. You need to understand this clearly, right? You need to understand this clearly. Salma, you're correct, right? Now, whoever put D would be incorrect, right? Whoever put D would be incorrect. Why is D incorrect, right? It says the recommended course of action is to follow an intense workout with a carbohydrate-rich breakfast. When you follow something with something else, that means you do the first thing first, as in here in this case, you're following an intense workout with a carbohydrate-rich breakfast means you're doing the workout first and carbohydrate-rich breakfast after. So exercise first, breakfast after. So when you use that word follow, it means the first thing you mention is what you do first. So for example, you follow joining the class once you have completed attending the webinar. It's like that, right? So you, after attending the webinar, only you join the class, right? So you follow an intense workout with a carbohydrate-rich breakfast. That is why C is the answer, right? C is the answer. Very clear, right? Very clear. But a lot of people, now when I've discussed this paper before, a lot of people have made that mistake and said the answer is D, right? So that is where, guys, your comprehension problem comes into play, right? Because, the skimming scanning or the scanning method will help you understand where the answer is, but it cannot help you comprehend that information. So for that, you have to build up your ability to understand what you are reading. Here. And it clearly says here the other way around and weight loss results are not as pronounced. We wouldn't read that, but it's there, right? Okay, so again, now no more answers here. Which is not mentioned as a way to improve supplement absorption. Improve supplement absorption, not, right? Which is not mentioned. Okay, so avoid drinks containing caffeine while taking, so avoid drinks containing caffeine while taking supplements, taking supplements at breakfast, taking supplements with food that can dissolve them, storing supplements in a cool, dry environment. So one of these things are not mentioned as a way to improve absorption. So we have to look for what is there. Supplement absorption. Okay, so it says here morning is also great for breaking out the vitamins. Supplement absorption by body is not temporal dependent, but neuropath Pam Stone notes that extra boost at breakfast helps us get energized for the day ahead, right? So taking supplements at breakfast helps us with absorption. That's not an answer, that means. So B cannot be an answer, right? So then we move on to For improved, okay. So again, now hold on. Supplement absorption by body is not temporal dependent, but neuropath Pam Stone notes that the extra boost at breakfast helps us get energized for the day ahead. Right. They have a specific section saying for improved absorption. So here again, it says improved supplement absorption. So our hunch about B might not be true. So B is still in play. So it has to be anything after this, right? So we'll read again and see. All right. For improved absorption, Stone suggests pairing supplements with food in which they are soluble and steering clear of caffeinated beverages. Okay. Caffeine, avoiding drinks containing caffeine while taking supplements is a way to improve absorption. Great. So A is not an answer, right? Taking supplements with food that can dissolve them is also not an answer because it says pairing supplements with food in a way they are soluble. So not an answer. C is out, right? Finally, Stone wants to take care with storage. High potency is best for absorption, and warmth and humidity are known to deplete the potency of a supplement. Storing supplements in a cool, dry environment, right? That's also out. We are left with B. You see, that's a tricky question, right? That's a tricky question because we found all the relevant keywords here, right? And even when we read it, it said this does help with supplement absorption. So that's a tricky one. But this is where the game changes. Look at that. Improved supplement absorption. That's where the game changes, right? So identifying all relevant keywords is so important, right? Identifying all the relevant keywords is so important, right? And unfortunately, all of these are flexible keywords. There are no fixed keywords as of yet, right? So in most of these, now this was fixed. This was fixed, but everything else has been flexible so far, right? So again, the best time to stop drinking coffee, now you see 10 p.m., right? There has to be this somewhere there, right? Because it's a fixed keyword, right? So it has to be there. If you just, okay, we see 3 p.m. is here. 3 p.m. is not here. And it says 10 o'clock, right? Now we know the answer is somewhere here. So we can forget about all of this and focus here, all right? The best time to stop drinking coffee, right? Caffeine consumption as early as 3 p.m. What does it say? But to prepare for a good night's sleep, we are better off putting the brakes on caffeine consumption as early as 3 p.m. Right. We have to stop consuming coffee at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. is what? Mid-afternoon. A would be the answer, right? Not 10, not only feeling anxious, not after dinner. It's mid-afternoon because it clearly says to prepare for a good night's sleep, we are better off putting the brakes on caffeine consumption as early as 3 p.m. All right. Okay. In the evening, we should stay away from carbohydrates, stop exercising, eat as much as possible, or eat a light meal. So again, we move on. So answer should be here and downwards, right? So we can focus on evening since that's the time that would be fixed. So evening is here, but this is again focused more on caffeine. So evenings are here again, right? We should stay away from carbohydrates. Dietitian Geraldine George warns that an after 5 carbohydrate fast is more cultural myth than chronobiological demand. So this is not exactly something that we should be following, right? This will deprive your body of vital energy needs. Overloading your gut could lead to indigestion though. Our digestive tracts do not shut down for the night entirely, but their work slows into a crawl as our bodies prepare to sleep. Consuming a modest snack should be entirely sufficient, right? So eat a light meal. So 13, the answer should be D. So in the evening, we should eat a light meal, right? I hope that's clear. Now we have a problem. This paragraph is done, but we have a 13th question. All right. Where are we going to go from here? We don't know. So we'll read the question and see. Which of the following phrases best describes the main aim of reading passage 1? So reading passage 1 is not this, right? It's not this, it's this whole passage, right? Reading passage 1, this whole thing is reading passage 1. So if you are ever in a situation where you know there is no answer below the last answer you have found, it means they are going to ask you a question like this about the entire paragraph. So this is not something that you can look for keywords and answer. This is just common sense, right? You have now read the entire paragraph. You should have a clear idea of what this is about. So it says, to suggest healthier ways of eating, sleeping, and exercising, to describe how modern life has made chronobiology largely irrelevant, to introduce chronobiology and describe some practical applications, to plan a daily schedule that can alter our natural chronobiological rhythms. Can you give an answer for this question? So you look at these 4. We have now finished this entire paragraph. What do you think is the answer for this question? Is it to suggest ways of healthier eating, sleeping, and exercising? What is it going to be? All right. Someone says it's Salma. Is it D or A or what? Manuka says it's A. Nirosha says it's D. Madhuranga says it's A. D. Okay. I say it's D. A lot of people are saying it's D. To plan a daily schedule that can alter our natural chronobiological rhythms. Think clearly about what this is saying. This has no pattern or no technique to find the answer, right? This is just common sense. Now, in this entire paragraph, right? In this entire paragraph, they talk about a number of different things. Do they suggest healthier ways of eating, sleeping, and exercising? Yes. Yes, they do, right? To describe how modern life has made chronobiology largely irrelevant. No, it actually talks about how chronobiology is very relevant. So that would not be an answer at all. So B is out. A could be an answer. To introduce chronobiology and describe some practical applications. That could also be an answer because chronobiology has been clearly introduced. Different parts of it have been introduced and practical aspects of it have been introduced, right? So A could be an answer, C could be an answer. To plan a daily schedule that can alter our natural chronobiological systems. No, it does not say that. In fact, it says to strengthen our chronobiology, there are certain things we should do, right? Waking up at a certain time, how to have the proper supplementation, how to have the proper coffee. It actually adds on to our existing circadian rhythms, right? Our existing, our natural chronobiological rhythms. It does not alter our natural chronobiological. So D is also out. It's either A or C. So when you take A or C, more than just suggesting ways of eating, sleeping, and exercising, it gives an overall application, right? An overall application, overall introduction to chronobiology, and it describes practical applications like eating, sleeping, and exercising. Clear? So the correct answer would be C. Yes. So whoever said C, that would be the correct answer. Do you get it? All right. Okay. Now we move on to, this would be the final question that we are discussing. And this is a good question to discuss because this is what you call a classification type question. This is where things get tricky for you. Because now in the previous question we did, we followed a pattern, right? Answers were in order. Here, answers are not in order. So now it's going to be a bit more confusing than it was earlier, right? It's not going to be as easy as it was in part 1. right? What are we going to classify? They have given 3 answers, A, B, C. The reptilian cortex, the limbic cortex, the neocortex. Okay. All 3 of these are keywords, fixed keywords, because these do not change, right? Now, before we start looking at the questions, ideally you should take 2 minutes and go through your fixed keywords. So if you go through the fixed keywords, you will identify, okay, reptilian cortex is here. There are other keywords here, like for example, startle center, right? You can go on, go on, go on. You would see reptilian brain, right? And then as you go on down further, you would see limbic cortex over here, right? Limbic cortex. And then as you read on, so you get my point. You go through, you go down, and then you have the neocortex over here, right? And then as you go on, so you take 2 minutes and you outline the relevant keywords. Just take 2 minutes, not more than that. Ideally, if you take the 2 minutes and you go down, you should get to about this point. Maybe if you're really fast here, and if you're really gifted, you can get right to the end. Most people can't get right to the end. I mean, even I find it difficult to get right to the end in 2 minutes, but that is what we have to try to do. And we should not worry if we can't get to the end in 2 minutes. The timing is more important than highlighting the fixed keywords. Okay. Keep that in mind. Right. Now, ideally, we know that reptilian cortex is in this paragraph. Limbic cortex is in this paragraph. Neocortex is in this paragraph. So you have a bit of an idea. Maybe neocortex, limbic cortex could be down here as well. We don't know. But for now, we have a clear idea. Okay, this is where it's going to be, right? Then we look at the questions and we try to identify the keywords there, right? Now, I would suggest when you're answering this type of question, underline all the keywords in all of the questions. That way, as you're going down, now you know there is no order here, right? You will not find the answer to question 14 first, then 15, then 16. No. Answer to question 14 could be here, right? Answer to question 15 might be here. So it's going to be really confusing. So what you're going to do, you have to identify the keywords in all of the given questions, right? That's the way you're going to go about it. Giving up short-term happiness for future gains, right? Short-term happiness, giving up short-term happiness for future gains, all flexible. Maintaining bodily functions necessary for life. Bodily functions like, for example, breathing, your eye movement, your listening, all of that. Bodily functions necessary for life, heartbeat, things like that. Experiencing the pain of losing another. Forming communities and social groups. Making a decision and carrying it out. Guarding areas of land. Developing explanations for things. Looking after one's young. Responding quickly to sudden movement and noise. Now we know the fixed keywords, or we know the keywords, not the fixed keywords. We know the keywords that we have to look for when we are reading this paragraph. Do you understand? Now we are going to read this entire paragraph, right? We are going to skim as much as possible, and every time we find an answer, we are going to mark it down, right? This is in complete opposite to what we were doing earlier, which is just look for the keywords, locate it, find the answer, and read only that section. Here, we have to try and read as much as possible in order to find as many answers as possible, right? First 3 of our brains is what scientists calls reptilian cortex. All right. This brain sustains the elementary activities of animal survival, such as respiration, adequate rest, and a beating heart. Respiration means breathing, adequate rest, and a beating heart. What is that? Bodily functions necessary for life. Therefore, the answer should be what? Reptilian cortex, A. Right? So for 15, it has to be A. Do you understand? For 15, it has to be A. Then We are not required to consciously think about these activities. The reptilian cortex also houses the startle center. Does it have anything about that? No. A mechanism that facilitates swift reactions to unexpected occurrences in our surroundings. Respond quickly to sudden movements and noise. Do you all understand? We found the swift reactions to unexpected occurrings, responding quickly to sudden movements and noise. Right? A again. Okay. That panic lurch you experience when a door slams out somewhere in the house, or heightened awareness when you feel twigs crack in a nearby bush while out in an evening stroll, are both examples of reptilian cortex at work. Not very important. These are just examples. When it comes to our interaction with others, the reptilian brain offers up the most important basic pulses: aggression, mating, and territorial defense. There is no great difference between a crocodile defending its spot along the river and a turf war between two gangs, guarding areas of land. Do you get it? A crocodile defending its spot along the river, right? And a turf war between two gangs, guarding their areas of land. Question number 19 has to be A. Do you get my point? Look how easy it was to find the answers. We know the relevant keywords. That's what we're looking for. As soon as we find it, we are able to locate the answer. Make sense? All right. We read on. Although the lizard may claim to stake its habitat, it exerts total indifference towards the well-being of its young. Total indifference. Experience the pain of losing another. No, it doesn't talk about the pain. It talks about being indifferent. So no. Listen to the anguished squeal of a dolphin separated from its pod, or witness the sight of elephants mourning their dead. That talks about the experience of losing another. However, and it is clear that a new development is at play. A new development is at play. Scientists have identified this as the limbic cortex. Limbic cortex is what? B. Right? Do you get my point? Easily we found the answers. Listen to the anguished squeal of a dolphin. Experience the pain of losing another. All right? What is that? Limbic cortex. Unique to feelings of tenderness and warmth unique to mammals, the limbic cortex impels creatures to nurture their offspring by delivering feelings of tenderness and warmth to the parent when children are nearby. Okay. Looking after one's young, right? It gives feelings of tenderness and warmth to the parent when children are nearby. Do you get it? So the answer for this again has to be B. All right. When we are with others of our kind, be that soccer, church, school, nightclub, we experience positive sensations of togetherness, solidarity, and comfort. If we spend too long away from these networks, then loneliness sets in and encourages us to seek companionship. We form communities and social groups because of our limbic cortex. B again. All right. So by default, the others should be neocortex, but we'll read and see because we don't know, right? We'll read and see. Okay. Right. Only human capabilities extend far beyond the scope of the two cortexes. Humans eat, sleep, and play, but we also speak, plot, rationalize, and debate. Speak, plot, rationalize, and debate the finer points of morality. We develop explanations for things, rationalize, debate, right? So that would be C. Our unique abilities are a result of our expansive third brain, the neocortex, right? Which engages with logic, reason, and ideas. So again, reinforces this one. The power of the neocortex comes from its ability to think beyond the present concrete moment. No, nothing there, but think beyond the present concrete moment. While other mammals are mainly restricted to impulsive actions, although some, such as apes, can learn and remember simple lessons, Humans can think of the big picture. We can string together simple lessons. For example, an apple drops downwards from a tree, hurting others causes unhappiness, to develop complex theories of physical and social phenomena such as laws of gravity and a concern for human rights. Okay, no more answers there. So we move on. Right. Okay. The neocortex is also responsible for the process by which we decide on and commit to a particular course of action. By which we decide and commit to a particular course of action, make a decision and carry it out. So C again would be your answer, right? Strung together over time, these choices can accumulate into feats of progress unknown to other animals. Anticipating a better grade on the following morning's exam, a student can ignore the limbic urge to socialize and go to sleep early instead. Over 3 years, this ongoing sacrifice translates into a first-class degree and a scholarship to graduate school. Over a lifetime, it can mean groundbreaking contributions to human knowledge and development. The ability to sacrifice our drive for immediate satisfaction in order to benefit later is a product of the neocortex, giving up short-term happiness for future gains. All right. So very easily, we were able to find the answers. Again, this is a process that we have to follow: skimming, scanning, and focused reading, right? You have to develop all three of these skills, okay? So your comprehension is so important, guys. Like I said, you have to develop your ability to read and understand what you are reading, because if you are unable to do that, no matter how much you practice, it's going to be difficult for you to find the correct answers. So giving due attention to comprehension is something you should do 2 to 3 months out. And then when you're 2 to 3 weeks in, you start practicing with a specific time limit, or you start practicing to the time, right? And you keep practicing according to the skimming, scanning, and focused reading method. All right. Okay, so with that, we are done for today, right? So guys, I hope that this webinar was of use to you. I hope that you understood everything that was said. If this webinar was of value to you, please do drop a message on our webinar group, on the WhatsApp group, saying that it was clear and that you understood, because it would really help me and it would keep us motivated to keep doing these free webinars in the future. All right. So do drop a message on the WhatsApp group if it was clear. If it was not, if there were any problems, doubts, clarifications, again, do let us know that as well. If there's anything we can improve on, please do let us know. We are open to suggestions and we are willing to make those improvements in the later webinars. But if it was helpful, please drop a message on the group. I hope everything was very clear to you. If anyone wants to join our 10-day IELTS program, please drop a message to this number. All right. Please drop a message to this number and confirm your participation today, because you will only get this 20,000 rupee discount only if you confirm today. All right. You don't have to pay today. You just have to confirm and say, I will be joining the 10-day program. Classes will be held every Tuesday and Thursday from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Every Tuesday and Thursday from 7:30 to 9:30. All right. You can join from 7:30 to 9:30 every Tuesday and Thursday. It's only 20,000 rupees if you confirm your participation today. All right. We are starting our classes next Thursday. That would be, if I'm not mistaken, the 4th of April, right? Yes, we are starting our classes on the 4th of April. That's Thursday at 7:30. So you need to confirm your participation today if you want the discount, or you could confirm your participation later on, but you would obviously have to pay more, right? So do confirm today. Even if your exam is in May, June, July, August, September, does not matter. Just for 20,000, you can keep joining our upcoming batches with zero restriction, zero additional payment. You get our video course and our information pack for free. So make sure you sign up for the program. So I hope that this was of good value to you guys. I really hope you learned something. Thank you very much for joining. Don't forget to drop your comments on the WhatsApp group as well. All right, guys, with that, we are done for today. See you and have a good night.